Hello, everyone. Now we're going to talk about the European battles of World War II. So, just a reminder World War II is from 1939 to 1945. Battles were fought in Europe, North Africa, and the Pacific. Germany was very successful at the beginning of World War II. Adolf Hitler had conquered most of Europe. So, we actually got some videos here. But let's talk about the Battle of Britain. After conquering most of Europe, Hitler looked to conquer Great Britain. Great Britain was the last major European country left to fight Germany. Once Hitler defeated Great Britain, he could turn his attention to the Soviet Union. Yes, Hitler and Stalin signed a non-aggression pact. Yes, Hitler is going to stab Stalin in the back. So, just remember, this is Great Britain right here. There is a body of water between Great Britain and Europe. So, let's look at what Hitler's plan was. First, airstrikes to take out Britain's Royal Air Force, the RAF. Without air support, Britain's navy would be easily defeated. So, we began on July 10th, 1940. First, Germany's Air Force, the Luftwaffe, attacked RAF bases. Next, on September 7th, the Luftwaffe began bombing large cities like London. Many civilians were killed and towns were devastated. So here you could see what the bombings caused. Even though Great Britain suffered great damage to RAF bases and towns, the British did not give up. The RAF used radar to detect incoming Luftwaffe. So we have a blitz. For 57 nights in a row, the Luftwaffe bombed London. Hitler continued bombing London at night until May 1941. Hitler still bombed London at times, but he needed his Luftwaffe to attack the Soviet Union instead. But for 57 nights, the city of London was bombed. But Britain won in the end. Next, we have the Battle of Stalingrad. So Hitler had already invaded Western Soviet Union in summer 1941. One of the bloodiest battles in history, over 1.2 million people killed. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see. Okay, here they are. There is a slow connection, but it looks like the subtitles are back. All right, so important for Germany. Easily launch attacks on the rest of the Soviet Union from this city. Give a psychological blow to the Soviets because the city was named after the Soviet dictator Stalin, who was the leader at the time of World War II. What is important for the USSR? Well, Stalingrad is a major industrial and communication city. It has Stalin's name. So, the battle began on July 17th, 1942. German troops reached the city on September 3rd. The Luftwaffe bombed the city before ground troops moved in. This is what it looked like. By late September, Germany had reached the city center. So, Germany occupied about 90% of the city. Here you could see the swastika flag flying from a Soviet building as German soldiers continued to overtake the city. However, the Soviets would not give up. Soviet troops hid in buildings, rubble, and sewers. They attacked German troops relentlessly. So you can see here they are hiding. You can see more here. They are using more guerrilla warfare. By mid-November, the German troops were running low on ammunition and food. The Soviets surrounded the German troops and cut off supplies. The Germans suffered in the harsh Soviet winter. The remaining 91,000 Germans surrendered on February 2nd, 1943. That's right in the middle of winter. The results. This was a severe humiliation for Hitler. It was a confidence boost for Stalin. The German army suffered terrible losses. The German army never fully recovered. Germany would never conquer the Soviet Union. The Soviets would soon push Germany out of the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union won. Next, we have the Battle of Normandy. Even after losing the Battle of Britain and Stalingrad, Hitler still controlled most of Europe. Allied powers needed to get a foothold in mainland Europe to push Germany back. American and British began launching airstrikes in German-held territories to slow down German troops. June 6, 1944 is D-Day. Germany knew the Allies were planning an invasion, but they didn't know where. The Allies made it look like they were going to invade the north of Normandy at Pays de Calais. The first wave of attack. Paratroopers parachuted behind German lines at night. They secured bridges and exit roads. Dummies were dropped out of airplanes to trick the Germans. Second wave of attacks. Warships were bombed the beaches from the sea. Allied planes bombed German defenses. French resistance members cut telephone lines and destroyed bridges to slow German troops. There were over 5,000 ships, 150,000 troops, over 11,000 aircraft. There were troops from US, Great Britain, and Canada. The British were at Gold Beach and Sword Beach. The Canadians were at Juno and Sword Beach. The Americans were at Utah and Omaha Beach. Omaha Beach ended up being the bloodiest of the D-Day beaches. And here's some pictures taken of the soldiers getting ready to make landfall on D-Day. By June 17th, over 500,000 Allied soldiers were pushing the Germans out of France. So here we have many pictures of the war. By the end of August, northern France was liberated. American troops marching in Paris after France was liberated. French tanks and troops marching in Paris after France was liberated. And here it says, Vive la Gaulle. That was the president of France. Germany now had to fight its west and east. So the Allies won. Next, we have the Battle of the Bulge. This is one of the last major battles fought in Europe. It was Hitler's last chance to force the Allies off of mainland Europe. Considered one of the greatest battles fought by the US military. Began on December 16th, 1944. Germany used a blitzkrieg to attack the Allied troops in the Ardennes forest of Belgium. So here we have a picture of that. Some more pictures. Germany attacked the center of the Allied front line. The Allied front line was pushed back, creating a bulge. Over 200,000 German troops and 1,000 tanks broke through. Allies were caught off guard and thousands were killed. But that's not all. English-speaking German spies were dropped behind the Allied front line. Those German spies were dressed in American uniforms and told lies to confuse the Allied troops. Things weren't looking good for the Allies. Allied troops refused to give up. Allied troops destroyed German fuel reserves, so the Germans began to run out of fuel for their tanks. The Battle of the Bulge lasted about 1 month. We had about 100,000 American casualties. Allied troops fought until reinforcements came. Hitler's last chance at pushing Allies off mainland Europe failed. Here we have several pictures. And in the end, the Allies won. Finally, we have the Battle of Berlin. This is the last major battle fought in Europe, primarily between the German and Soviet troops. Soviet troops greatly outnumbered the Germans. Began on April 16th, 1945. The Soviet Union had 2.5 million soldiers. Germany had 1 million soldiers. Soviet Union had 7,500 aircraft. Germany had 2,200 aircraft. Soviet Union had 6,200 tanks. Germany had 1,500. German soldiers were starving, sick, and wounded from years upon years of fighting. The Soviets were able to attack the city and easily surround it. On April 20th, the Soviets began bombing the city. Here you can see what that looks like. Hitler knew Berlin was going to fall. He called in additional German troops from the west. By April 30th, Berlin lay in ruins. So here we have the Reichstag building. We have some more buildings in Berlin. We have Soviet soldiers raising the Soviet flag in Berlin. The Soviets were closing in. Hitler knew he had lost. Hitler knew Germany had lost. On April 30th, Hitler committed suicide instead of being taken prisoner. On May 2nd, German generals surrendered. On May 8th is VE Day, Victory in Europe Day. The remaining Nazi leaders signed their surrender to the Allies. When the battle ended, there were 360,000 Soviet casualties, 310,000 German casualties. 22,000 German civilians were killed. The war in Europe is over, but it still raged on in the Pacific. So, when we look at this, the Allies won the war in Europe. And with that, this lesson is over. I will see you next time.